Hi everyone, I'm Dulull from Hasraf, and this is my presentation on transmedia for this year's ICE conference. Firstly, thank you to Matthias and the team over at ICE conference for inviting me on this to give a talk about transmedia. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it in person, so this is me apologizing to you all for that because I'm deep in production on the next movie, which I'm excited to talk about soon. But I'm really happy I'm able to do this recording for you guys. So I hope you guys find something interesting or inspiring, and thank you. So let's talk about transmedia. So let me just share my screen. Cool. All right. From animated films to video games. Let's just start off with a little bit about myself. This kind of image kind of shows you my background. So I started off in video games as a game cinematic artist working on PlayStation 1 games, kind of like 98, 99 while I was still at university. I did an internship and then kind of from there I left university afterwards after graduating and went to work for companies like Codemasters, Kuja Entertainment on games like Colin McRae Rally at Codemasters, Battalion Wars, and also I did a stint with a company called Spov working on a splash damage game called Quake Wars. Then I left the games industry because I'm like, who makes cinematics in game engines? Who tells story in game engines? I want to go and do proper movies and TV shows. So I went to work in visual effects on movies such as Prince of Persia, Hellboy, did previs on The Dark Knight, and then became a VFX supervisor and a VFX producer on shows like America's Story of Us. After doing close to about a decade of visual effects work, while I was in visual effects, I was always making short films in my spare time because, like, we have time, not. And I one of my short films kind of broke out, it kind of went viral, and I got signed to a manager and agent in Hollywood and went through the whole Hollywood process. And eventually, I ended up making my feature films called The Beyond, which was shown on Netflix in 2019, and it's still available to watch on Amazon, Apple, and so on. And then I did a film called Origin Unknown with the lovely Katie Sackhoff, who you may have seen in The Mandalorian, but also from Battlestar Galactica, Starbuck. And then I directed a show and executive produced a show called Fast Lane for Disney Plus, as well as another project called Under the Sea, Descendant Story. So with all of that combined, I decided to set up a production company called Hasraf, which combines film, cinema, TV, and video games together. And that's where we come with transmedia. The company was set up by myself and Paula Crickard, who is a veteran producer and post producer on movies like The Expendables, Fantastic Beasts, and a ton of more. But also, it's a very small team we started off with. And you can see, looking at this, the screen right here, you can see that everyone's got multidisciplines. I do a lot already. But, people like Andrea, who's my head of CG. He's also our lead dev, Sam Rebello, who does a lot of devs. But it's also kind of like our art director kind of guy. And we also work with a lot of like external freelancers, just like Ace Royal, Alex Khan for motion capture. We have Mark Chang, who's a fantastic collaborator of mine. He's very much like does very heavy cinematics with me, Ryan Fleming, and so on. And the team keeps growing, which is amazing. Of course, I have my cat that keeps me on check all the time. Very important to have a cat in the studio. Okay, so the entire company was built with Unreal Engine in the middle, and then we expanded out. So unlike other companies where they had their infrastructure based on Maya, C4D, and so on, this is pretty much a company with real time in the center, specifically Unreal Engine, and then we use Maya, Cinema 4D, Blender, whatever tools. We're quite agnostic to that. As long as the content or the data can be brought into Unreal, either via FBX or Lembic or some kind of data bridge, we're cool with that. And of course, when we're making movies, we render out as EXRs, bring them into DaVinci Resolve and edit. But even right down to like motion capture data and everything all feeds into Unreal. So once it goes into Unreal, it stays in Unreal, and then we export out whatever the content is. In our case, all the movies that we make are usually final pixels, which means no compositing. It's straight at the engine, which is kind of like the dark side because my background was compositing in visual effects. But yeah, so that essentially, and of course, we use things like AWS for our storage and Perforce for all our source control. Okay, so in around 2020, 2021, we decided to make a full animated feature film entirely in Unreal Engine 4.26, not 5, 4.26. It was 93 minutes long, 4K HDR color graded. And this film was released early this year around May, and you can watch it on Sky Movies and so on, and Amazon and Apple. So do check the film out. But this is one of the first actually fully animated feature films done entirely in engine, exported out for commercial release. So here's a little trailer.
I'm just trying to protect you.
Take him down.
Where is Max Walker?
The road to destruction, making the same bad decisions, the same mistakes. Send in the sink.
All right. So what's actually involved in making a full real-time animated movie in Unreal? I mean, I can't really explain it. I can only show it. So, this is me shooting a lot of camera angles using my iPad with a rig that I bought on Amazon live linked into Unreal. And of course, I also use a mouse and keyboard to create some cameras, but there's something about this creating an organic feel because I come from live action. So, I really wanted the feel of a real camera. So that's me shooting cameras. And then, obviously we work very closely with motion capture to do all of our animation because we're not really like hardcore animators. So we rely a lot on motion capture. This is me directing the amazing Ace Real. And it's not even a motion capture studio, by the way. This is a post-production space that we're able to use because it was available at the time. And that's the point, right? With today's technology, it's so accessible that it's quite portable as well. So this is using XNs. And I was able to direct the actor, but also see Ace's performance directly in real time so that by the time I leave the session, I've got the data ready to work with, which is amazing. Also worked very closely with remote artists such as Alex Kong, who was based in Montreal at the time. So we use something called iClone. And again, you can see here what he's doing. He's using the iPhone to capture his facial expressions, but he's also got a camera behind him where I can give him direction directly. So, because of the way the pandemic was set up at the time, we had to think of smart ways to do remote collaboration. This is a really cool way of working. But from a director's point of view, what's my day-to-day like in Unreal? Well, I don't do hardcore blueprint or coding or anything like that. In fact, I mainly use the sequencer section of Unreal Engine, which is essentially a timeline where, my artist will give me the characters and the animation, the environments will be set up, and then I'll just go in and just trigger animation moments, trigger explosions, muzzle flashes, animate the camera moves, kind of like a conductor, but all in Unreal Engine, which is an amazing power to have as a creator, as a filmmaker, to really help find the voice of the film. Because with traditional animation, there's a massive process that you have to go through. Whereas here, once everything is built, I can go in and start blocking shots out. And sometimes I'll just do a first pass and hand it to an animator, and an animator will make it better. But the point is, I have my thumbprint in every single shot, but also I can experiment and find the voice of the film without incurring massive cost or time, which is very important when you're in an indie studio making an indie movie like this. Okay, so how did I move from animated film to video games? Well, firstly, just because we're in Unreal Engine, which is a game engine, making an animated film doesn't necessarily mean we should go and make a game. But there's a lot of reasons why. So first off, let me show you the game that we did. So here's some footage of the game. This game is still in very early development, and this is very early footage. But there was a lot of reasons we decided to make a game. The main reason was, as a storyteller, there's only so much you can put in a 92-minute linear movie. Whereas in a game, you can expand that as much as you like. So there's a lot of things on the script that myself and Stavros, the writer, end up cutting that didn't make it in the movie. We're like, well, we can put that in the game. But also, I wanted to tell the story of Max Beyond from a different perspective, from a different lens, from a different point of view. And in this point of view, we get to control Leon, and we get to have Max follow and use his powers. But also, I get to explore a way to tell the story in a new way, where I'm given a lot of agency to the player to make decisions as well, which is an amazing way to explore a story or lore. But because we're a sucker for pain, we decided, wouldn't it be cool to play as Max, as the character that has the special powers? So now we decided to make a co-op game, split screen, where it's more sort of like puzzle action type of game, where you have to figure out puzzles in order to solve the multiverse chaos, which is created by our characters. But what's very cool now is that now the player gets to play the character as Max, a little kid. It's a different point of view. It's a different way of seeing that story unfold. And from a storytelling point of view, it's a very interesting way to explore how far we can take the character with the audience in control. So that was one of the many reasons why we decided to make a game. But we got hooked, and I have to say, like, making a game is way harder than making a movie. I mean, both things take a lot of time to make, but a game, like, look, here's the thing: with a movie, it's a roller coaster ride that you force the audience to sit on that roller coaster, and it's all pre-scripted in the linear. You force the audience to look where you want them to see. Whereas in a game, there's a lot of freedom. You know, you're creating a 360 environment where the player can essentially do what they want to do unless you put some clear barriers to force a player to go in a certain place. So, you know, it's less forgiving in a game and less to cheat in a game compared to a movie. And because we posted a lot of this stuff online, you know, we got signed to the independent developers program at Xbox, ID Xbox. So for me, that's a big deal because obviously I started in games back in the day, and getting a development kit was extremely hard. And we managed to get dev kits from Xbox. So actual game developers, we have to make this game now, which is awesome. So because we got the bug of blending film and gaming, hence transmedia, we're like, what else could we do? So in the trailer that I showed you saw that big red robot. That's the bad guy in the movie. We're like, what if we get the bad guy or the bad robot its own spin-off video game? So we created this game, which again, very early prototype, just to see what it was like. We decided to change it. Instead of making a full sort of like 3D immersive game, we tried to kind of emulate retro gaming, because I love those games, and make more of a side scroller game. And really see what it's like to be in the day in the life of the Sink, which is the bad guy, and what it's, you know, give it a bit of history. So the game basically takes place like decades before the movie, where you get to see what the origins of the Sink was, and it used to be a law enforcer before it became this bad thing. So that's a very interesting way to explore just one of the characters in the movie and give it its own spin-off. But what if there was a faster way to get game ideas made? Because here's the thing, like those prototypes, they took a long time to make, especially when you're not essentially a fully fledged game developer like us. You know, it took us a long time to learn, to put stuff together. Of course, we had a lot of the assets we built from the movie, but stuff takes a lot of time. And sometimes you spend 6 months, 7 months creating some kind of demo, and that stuff costs time, resources, and all of those things equals money. So as an indie company, there's only so much reserves we have financially to do these things. So we're like, there's got to be a faster way just to prototype ideas and concept. Because the thing is, when you're pitching a movie, you have pitch decks, you have sizzle reels and so on, and the script, or an outline, or treatment, or a mood book. But with a game, you can have all of those things, but it's all about the immersion. It's all about the feeling. You kind of have to give the controller to someone to say, hey, play this demo to get an idea of the game. So, you know, demos are a very key thing for game devs to show off their ideas. It's only so much an image can do. So we had to find a faster way. And then I came across UEFN, which is Unreal Editor for Fortnite. And I remember seeing this at GDC a couple of years ago, and I was blown away by it. I'm like, whoa, like, this is Unreal Engine, but using the Fortnite ecosystem, and I can bring my own content in the Fortnite ecosystem and potentially monetize as well. I had to give it a shot, but you have to create original IP, because we're an original IP company. You know, IP is our currency. You know, where we create content. We're not so much servicing. You know, we do a lot of co-productions and co-development with other companies, but essentially our core business is creating original content. So like, it's going to take a long time to create original content from scratch, and I just want to test something out in UEFN. So as a content creator, you have I have a drawer full of ideas. Like every week I come up with some ideas, my team will come up with ideas, and we'll just shelve them. And sometimes like you have an idea which could be too crazy to make, which is kind of what Max Beyond was basically. Max Beyond was a live action script which got turned into an animated film because we had to make some content during the pandemic, else it will go crazy. So we had a TV show called Moonopia, which is an animated show, which was very cool, a cool concept, but it was just too early in the game for us to do a TV show. It takes a long time to make a TV show. So we kind of shelved it. But we then decided, let's resurrect Moonopia from a TV show concept and maybe create it as a Fortnite experience and use all the things that we've learned in game dev and storytelling to explore Fortnite as a platform. The first thing you do is you create a portal account. Everything is done online. So, you know, even when you test the game out, you have to publish a private link online to test it. So there's no offline testing, like in-editor testing. And then one of the things we did was we started to migrate all of the assets that we had used in the series. We also did a VR game test as well, which I'm not going to show. It's so bad. But we took all of the assets and brought them into UEFN. Now, UEFN is essentially Unreal Engine 5 light. So it's stuff that's been stripped away to make it work. But we also very quickly realized that to make a game in UEFN and Fortnite, you've only got 400 megabytes for the entire thing. Image, video, everything, like code, devices, everything has to be done 400 meg, which I thought was awesome because it kind of took me back to the PS1, PS2 days. We had very limited video memory to play with to create something really cool, or tile your textures, several like 64 by 64 and tile those. And whereas the younger members of our team were like, 400 meg, my Photoshop file, 400 meg. How are we going to make a whole entire game? So this became a very good exercise for the team to create optimized content in gaming in order to make it work for Fortnite. So that was cool because, bear in mind, like the Max Beyond demos I showed you were quite big in size, you can see, whereas here we had to really work in a very limited restriction. And to be honest, guys, I even take this back to my filmmaking days. Some of my best ideas came from when I'm restricted in the box. So I think Fortnite is a very good way to come up with really very clever ideas in a very restricted way. We were also able to port the animation we had done in iClone for the teaser trailer into Fortnite as well. And you can do a lot in UEFN, but there's some stuff you can't do, which isn't available. So you have to go and do some programming. And it uses something called verse programming. So for us, we use verse program to randomize some of the meteorites drop in so that they don't always look repetitive. Source control is very important. As I said earlier, we use perforce, but when you use UEFN, there is no perforce. It's all built-in revision control, which is awesome. So basically, every time you load up UEFN, you make sure you get the latest, and when you finish doing your work, you check in the latest and drop some comments. It's a very good way for collaborative working with your team. And once you've got a version ready to play test, you upload it as a private server for testing, and you can start testing. Now, I have to say, we were able to put together a very, very quick, rough demo just to test the gameplay with some rough environments within a week. And we were testing multiplayer. Now, for those of you on the conference today that come from game dev would appreciate how hard it is to get a multiplayer server up and running and develop one and get it, battle tested and so on. Was here we're able to test it very quickly. We had up to 6 players playing, and we can test online multiplayer mechanics, which is phenomenal. But of course, as you test, a lot of bloopers would happen, such as this going through the ground, which has actually inspired us. Okay, hey, what if we can play underneath the moon's surface? So again, bloopers inspire for other things as well. But of course, we come from the world of cinematics, so we always bring in a long cinematic sequence in our games because we just love that storytelling element. But here's the thing. When we started playtesting this with other people, we started to realize that within halfway through the cinematic, people just want to hit the X button to skip. And we're like, oh, wow. So we end up shortening the cinematic massive to like 10 seconds and doing the rest of the storytelling in the game, in the environments. So this is sequences that never made it in the final Fortnite release. But you guys get to see it. This is the cut version, the director's cut version. There you go. All right. So the other things also was, from a game design point of view, there was a lot of things called devices in Fortnite in UEFN. So this is one of the devices called the timer. And basically, you've got a set number of time as it's counting down to collect as many coins in order to feed the meter in order to take off in the ship. Very simple mechanic, but very effective for gameplay to create tension and so on. Now, once your game is ready to be released to the public, you have to go through something called the IARC, which is the International Age Rating Coalition. And basically, it's like the BBFC for film or any rating. You have to disclose what your game, does it contain violence? Does it contain scary moments and so on? And we failed a lot of times because it just wouldn't submit. It would say, no, your game contains content which is not appropriate for Fortnite and so on. So I'll give you an example of some of those. Floating astronauts. Apparently, floating astronauts also signifies death. can't have any form of death. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. This is Fortnite. This is a shoot 'em up game. You're blasting people all the time. That's right. That's in a very stylized way. According to when they did the moderation on this, having astronauts that's floating showed that there's dead people, even though in my mind they're unconscious. Anyway, so we solved that problem by just adding some animation and waving. So now they're tethered and waving, say, help me, I'm trapped, please rescue me. And that worked really well. Another thing also was the original monster we had in there was very scary and terrifying. And you got to remember, Fortnite is more of a teen-rated platform. So I didn't want to remove the monster because I thought that's the cool thing. So instead of removing monster, we changed the shader and put more of a neon, which I have to say does look really cool. So I'm kind of glad we got to change it to make it more fun and neon-like, but still keep some of its movement and animation, make it a monster. And then once you do pass the moderation test after several times, you get a green light on your public release, and you get an email like this saying, congratulations, it's passed, and here's your content code to share. And literally, you can type in the content code, or you can type in the name of the game. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is because when you make a game or any type of content, it's important to create a title that is quite unique as much as you can, specifically unique for the platform. There isn't anything called Moonopia at the time on Fortnite. So when you type in Moonopia, you get the game come up right away. So that helped massively. But the thing about this was accessible not just on the PC. PlayStation, it was accessible on Xbox, Nintendo Switch. So literally all I had to do was just post online, hey, Moontopia's out, go boot up Fortnite, which is free to install and download and so on. But also just type in Moontopia and you can play the game. It was amazing. For me, even though I've been in the industry for a long time, I still get the butterfly feeling of playing the game that I'm involved in creating with my team on a TV screen in my living room. It's really cool. So yeah, and no dev kits required or anything like that. But we also tested it on the Android because you can play Fortnite on the Android. So we tested it on the Galaxy phone as well, which is a really good way to test the mobile nature of the game. So here's a trailer of the game to show you the footage. So yeah, please do. If you got Fortnite, or if you don't have Fortnite, install Fortnite and type in Moontopia and have a play. You can play up to 6 people. It's super fun. Okay, but let's talk about some problems now, because it's all good saying this is amazing and everything, and it is amazing. But as with every technology, especially platforms that are constantly evolving, there are some problems. The big problem is discoverability, and that's with any kind of content you make, not just games. But yeah, you make an awesome game. You want people to play it. And how do you get discoverability on the Fortnite platform, the UEFN platform? Well, the first obvious one is Epic Picks. And it's very easy. You just submit your game to the Epic Pick form. And if they like it, they put it on the front page and your game gets to be exposed to the millions of people that play Fortnite. And we were quite lucky that Moontober got an Epic Pick. So that helped us. But you can't keep relying on an Epic Pick, right? You got to find other ways to get people to drive traffic to play your game on Fortnite. So we're going to talk a bit about that, how we do that. The other problem we found was UEFN as a platform is constantly evolving and updating, which means they update the engine all the time. So for example, we had a version of here where the sky was blown out white. We're like, oh my God, why does it look white? It doesn't look like that in the editor. And then we realized they had updated the lumen settings for whatever reason. So we then had to go back and change the sky system and then create something more like this. So my point is, when you're making a game in UEFN Fortnite, it's not that you make it and you're done. You have to keep maintaining and updating it. So it's worth having that in the back of your mind as well. And it's very quick to update, by the way. You make the update within a couple of minutes, you're up there, it's done. By the moderation process, obviously. But the main thing now, going back to discoverability, is I spend a lot of time looking at metrics. I know I wouldn't have thought I'm a creative. Why am I looking at graphs? But they're very important if you want to figure out what's working in your game, what isn't working in your game. So metrics is very important. Seeing what the total active players are, average play time, That's very important, that how much people are spending time in the game before they hit quit. And this is at the time. This is like, God, this is like July, August, I think, these numbers. But, what are the total unique players? That's more important than the total lifetime players, because unique players are individual people. And, we had 130, close to 131, I could say, 130,000 unique players playing Moontopia, which is very important for us to know that, because that really helps us to decide whether we continue investing more time and money into the game. So how do you get your game discovered? I mean, not gonna lie, it ain't rocket science. You shout about the game as loud as possible. I mean, that's game marketing, right? But how do you do that? Well, first off, you got to create marketing material to show off your game. And one of the best ways of doing that is using the replay feature inside of Fortnite. So once you set up the replay settings, as you see here, there's also a whole video about it on my YouTube channel, which goes into detail how to do this. But once you set that up, you can then start creating some really cool camera angles. Let me show you how you do this. So here you go. So basically what it is, you play a session with your friends. And once you play your session with your friends, it's recorded in the background. And then you load up Fortnite and you load up that replay section. So that will probably be in that list here. Let's see. Here you go. Look. So these are all the various replay recordings that happened while I was playing with my friends at Moontopia. And you just look at the ones that you want to load up. You load the replay up and then you play it. Now, this is not video. This is the actual game session playing in the game environment. I know, mind-boggling, right? So it means that as you play the replay of the game, you can pause at any time and move the camera around to find a really cool angle, and then you screenshot it and you create some really cool screenshots. Or you can just play the replay, change the camera angles, and record it as video footage. Because here I'm just doing some screen grabs. Here's some examples of some of the screen grabs that I captured in my replay sessions. None of these are photoshopped or color corrected. They are captured exactly in the moment of the game, but in a different angle. Pretty cool, right? I mean, each frame tells a story. So right now you can see that there's involved buggies, aliens, shooting, chases, tension, so on. So you create some really good, compelling screenshots. And then you start sending them out to various press websites. So we had GamesBeat do a coverage on it. We had Animation UK, Televisual, Creative Blog. I mean, we went everywhere. Now, you're probably thinking Televisual. I mean, for those who know, it's a television broadcast magazine website. Why are they covering Moontopia? Like I said earlier, this entire presentation is about transmedia, combining film, TV, games together to extend your IP, right? And this is a big thing. We look at what Netflix is doing at the moment with all of their content. And if you look at, all the movies that are being made from game IP like Sonic, Last of Us, and so on, it's a big thing, transmedia. We also got coverage in Edge magazine. Again, like not many people may know magazine, but if you're in the UK or in Europe, and you're in the game industry, then getting into Edge is a big deal. And for us, we managed to get our Fortnite game in there. Again, look at the screenshots. See, these are exactly the screenshots I took via replay and post them out, and they're very high resolution. So there you go. Also, social media is very important. I know, it sucks up a lot of our times. We want to be making stuff, not posting stuff on social media. But if you're an indie creator, social media is part of your tool set as a creator. So you got to have to find some time, whether you're on the toilet seat or whatever, or in the train, post, tweet stuff. We found Twitter was the best place, or X as it's called, was the best place for promoting our Fortnite content, because most of the Fortnite players live on Twitter. So also understand which platform is relevant to your content. It's very important. So you're not spending time posting on Instagram when there's not a lot of Fortnite players on Instagram. Also, go to game conventions. I went to Gamescom. I went to IBC. I go to tons. Even this right now, this convention, that's part of shouting about the game, right? So use those opportunities at conventions to do speaking events and talk about your game. Of course, get an official Fortnite creative page. It's free. You just need to register for one. It's cool. It's a kind of like a statement to say that you're serious about making Fortnite games. And it's fortnite.com/Hasmation. It sounds cool. So what's next for us? Well, we decided to expand the world of Moontopia into its own mini franchise, just like we did the Max Beyond movie. We kind of did a spin-off video game for the game, a co-op game, and also Synchromania. We decided, what can we do in the world of Moontopia in the Fortnite ecosystem? So we decided, at the time, there's this big trend called body cam. We're like, well, we could do a body cam version, but why don't we take that and put its own spin and utilize the Mootopia, the theme of being an astronaut? So we thought, what about helmet cam? So here's a spin-off game called Mootopia Helmet Cam, which has got its own island code, or you just type in Mootopia and it'll come up as Mootopia as well as helmet cam. So here's some footage. And I grew up playing games like Doom and Halo, so I wanted to pay homage to that. So we spent a lot of time building sort of like a heads-up display helmet. And although it's quite restrictive visually, I wanted to really give the player a new perspective of playing Mootopia, which is through the helmet, which is very, very challenging. So there you go. So you can try all sorts of new ideas and crazy ideas very quickly, whether they work or not. They're very quick to create and also very cool to play as well. So the other thing we also did was we went back to Max Beyond and go, okay, let's go back to our original IP here, the one that's got the movie and the game already out for it. Well, the movie out, not the game. And because the game's going to take a while to make, we're still in development. It won't come out probably until later next year, 2025. Fingers crossed. We thought, how do we get the gaming community to also experience some of our Max Beyond lore? So we brought the Max Beyond lore into Fortnite, and we decided to create sort of like a Metal Gear Solid stealth tactical espionage game, and use sort of like images from the movie into the game. Because here's the thing, unlike the Xbox game that we're building, we can control the characters from the movie. You can't do that in Fortnite. You can't change the player character, but you can change the NPCs. But because of the restriction of moderation, we can't have a kid running around getting shot, right? So what we did was we had Max the kid constantly as an image reminding you to rescue him. And we decided to do it as a spin-off, kind of like what they did with John Wick Ballerina, right? Where John Wick's not about John Wick, it's about other people in the John Wick universe. Wanted to create the universe of Max Beyond where the player has to use the same theme of escort and protection from the movie in Fortnite. So we still expand the universe of Max Beyond in terms of its theme and plot and ideas, but in a new perspective in Fortnite. And that comes to the end of my presentation. So please, if you want to know more about and much more granular detail on how I create the content, whether it's the movies or the Fortnite games or anything in general, or even my live action films, or some of the VFX breakdowns I've done in my previous projects, then please subscribe to the Hasraf YouTube channel, or just type in Hasraf YouTube and just have a look at the videos and comment and share and so on. You can also reach me on LinkedIn. I'm very prolific on LinkedIn. Please reach out, DM me, say you've seen this video or this event. Or you can reach out to me on Instagram and so on. So again, thank you so much for giving me this time and space on this really busy conference to share my journey. And I really hope that you guys reach out. And I'm really hoping that it at least inspires one person at the conference, something or more. But thank you again. Thanks, Matthias. And I hope to see you guys soon.